Dizziness, disorientation, that awful sinking feeling. And before you know it, you're just ripping that headset off and lying down for hours in order to get back to yourself. And in that moment, just one thought runs through your mind. I'll never be able to enjoy VR ever. But today, that changes, because I'm going to give you all the tools that you will need in order to beat VR sickness for good. And make sure you stick around, because at the end, I will walk you through a step-by-step plan to make sure you can enjoy VR as it was meant to be.
Jumping straight into fast-paced, action-heavy VR games? Yeah, that's a one-way ticket to Nausea City. Instead, ease into it. Start with games designed to be comfortable. Ones that keep you stationary. Think like seated experiences or games where your in-game character doesn't move much. Once you're comfortable, level up. Try games with gentle movement, but use comfort settings like teleportation, vignetting, and snap turning to make the transition smoother. But here's the golden rule. Never push through the sickness. The moment you start feeling off, just pause. Breathe and step away. Why? Because if you power through the nausea, your brain starts linking VR with feeling terrible. And that's the last thing we want. Instead, take it slow. Train your VR legs and make every session a positive one.
But of course, staying still forever isn't the goal here. At some point, you'll want to move around without feeling sick. And there's a simple trick to help your brain adjust.
Not everyone has a cat VR treadmill or a mansion-sized play space to walk around in. Sure, you could take your VR headset outside, but then there's sunlight, rain, and well, awkward stares from strangers. So instead, fake it. When you're playing VR, move your body as if you're actually walking or turning. Even small, natural movements like shifting your weight or slightly stepping forward can help sync what your eyes see with what your body feels. At the end of the day, it's all about tricking your brain. Right now, it's confused. Your eyes are telling it one thing, but your body isn't matching up. The more you simulate movement, the more it starts to feel natural.
But what about those moments where movement is completely out of your control? For example, like falling, flying, climbing, the feeling where your stomach just drops.
Some VR moments can hit like a roller coaster. Falling off a ledge, zooming upstairs, or swinging through the air like a wannabe Spider-Man. And when your brain isn't ready for it, that's when the nausea kicks in. The trick? Just close your eyes for a second. Shutting your eyes during a sudden, intense movement helps cut off the visual confusion, giving your brain a moment to catch up. Once the movement stops, open them back up, and you'll feel way more in control.
But sometimes it's not just the movement that will mess with you. It is your sense of direction. If your brain doesn't know which way is forward, that disconnect can make things worse. But luckily, there's a simple way to fix that.
One of the biggest reasons VR can mess with your brain, losing your sense of direction. When everything around you is virtual, your body has no real point of reference, leading to that weird, disconnected feeling. A simple fix? Just use a fan. Not only does it help you stay cool, which is huge since overheating makes motion sickness worse, but a constant breeze gives your brain a real-world anchor. You'll always feel which way is forward, which helps reduce disorientation. Another great tool? A floor mat. Standing on something with a distinct texture, like a yoga mat or a rug, lets your feet subconsciously track where you are in real life. It's a small detail, but it makes a huge difference in keeping your balance and easing the disconnect.
There's also another key factor that can make or break your VR experience. And if you get it wrong, motion sickness is pretty much guaranteed.
Even if you train your VR legs, there's one thing that can ruin the experience instantly, and that is low FPS. A stable 90 FPS or higher is key to preventing motion sickness. Lower frame rates can make everything feel laggy, choppy, and just overall disorienting, which is a recipe for dizziness especially in fast-paced games. If you're on PC, make sure your hardware can handle VR properly. Optimize your settings to keep performance smooth, and if you're using a Meta Quest, your best bet is to stick with standalone games that are already optimized for high frame rates. Oh, and if you don't have a Quest, check the link in the description below. You will get $30 in Quest Cash alongside to purchase any app or game you desire.
But what if you have done everything right? You have trained your VR legs, you have the right setup, and you just still feel sick? Well, there's still one last option that people turn to in order to fix their motion sickness.
Now, I'm not a doctor, so don't take this as medical advice. But some people use motion sickness medication to help with VR nausea. These meds are typically meant for car rides, flights, or sailing, but they can also ease the symptoms of VR motion sickness. That said, this is just a band-aid solution. The real fix is, of course, training your VR legs. The more you expose your brain to VR in a controlled way, the better it adapts. Over time, your nausea will naturally decrease, and that's the ultimate goal.
But how do you actually train your VR legs the right way? If you push too hard, too fast, you will only make things worse. The key is to follow a step-by-step approach.
If you jump straight into fast-moving VR games, your brain is going to fight back. The key is progression, taking small steps until your body naturally adjusts. And here's the best way to do it. Level 1. Start with stationary experiences, like Beat Saber, First Encounters, or games that use pass-through mode. These keep movement minimal, letting your brain ease into the 3D environment, while only moving your hands. Level 2. Once you feel comfortable, try a slower paced movement game like First Touch and enable every comfort option possible. Movement speed to the lowest setting, or use teleportation instead of smooth movement. Max out the vignetting to reduce peripheral motion blur, and use snap turning instead of smooth turning to prevent disorientation. Level 3. Now it's time to gently push your limits. Slowly decrease vignetting, but keep snap turning. If you start feeling comfortable, turn on continuous movement, but keep the speed low and only increase it when you're ready. Level 4. By now, your VR legs are getting stronger. It's time to work toward fully smooth movement. Enable smooth turning, but increase vignetting to compensate. Once you get used to it, gradually decrease vignetting while increasing turn speed. At this stage, you'll be able to handle VR movement like a pro, without constantly battling nausea.
But even with the best VR legs, a smooth experience isn't just about the body. It's also about your setup. Because if your PC isn't running VR properly, no amount of training will save you from stutters, lag, and low FPS. I've got a full breakdown of the best tweaks and settings over here in order to boost your FPS and overall performance. So go ahead and watch it right here.